Howdy, y'all. I was thinking about doing a couple of chapters this evening. The chapter 14 in our daily Bible reading today is only 28 verses, and they're not real long verses. But chapter 15 is like 189 verses or something. No, it's not that many. It's 41 verses. So I'm not going to do it. But I got something to talk about besides that. Today, the pastor at my church is in Colorado. He and his wife, I think they're from there. I'm not sure, but I think they're from there. They go there like twice a month for a long weekend. We just about had World War III at church today. There's a guy there, and I'm pretty sure he's related to Satan. He always sits back in a far back corner, away from everybody else. He goes in that corner, and nobody's even anywhere close to him. Every time I've been in there, he's always in that corner, and everybody else is everywhere else, but not near him. And I had heard the pastor one time say something about there's one member or one, I don't think the church has members, but there's one person that went to that church that didn't agree with anything. And I saw it today. Goodness gracious, so. And when the pastor's not there isn't the pastor is not a pastor. He works for some oil company, and he's a pretty good preacher, but he's not a real pastor. But he does know the Bible fairly well. That devil back in the corner, he don't know the Bible worth diddly. He is just like the devil. He twists it and turns it and twists it some more to where he tries to make it say stuff that is not even close to what it says. And today, he and the stand-in pastor got into it, and then the stand-in pastor tried to get me involved, and I'm deaf as a haddock. I can't hear. They've got some headphones for hard of hearing people, but the stand-in pastor didn't know how to get it hooked up to the microphones. I know, I've got a little part that I turn it on and off and put the headphones on, and then I can adjust it and all, but he has to get his microphone hooked up to my headphone, and he didn't know how to do it, and I didn't either. I thought, maybe it would automatically pair, but it didn't. So I don't know how to do it. But I could hear, I was sitting like on the second row, and the guy was standing at the first row, so I could hear him pretty good most of the time. And the pastor had said something one time about this devil guy back there didn't believe in a rapture, and he didn't believe in a tribulation period, and he doesn't believe in a lot. And this guy today, all he wanted to talk about was the rapture and the September rapture of the church, like everybody else except me. I'm ready for the rapture, but I don't think it's going to be in September. But if it is, I'll be very happy. If it's not, I'll be very happy because I know it's coming soon. But those two got into it, and then the assistant pastor, whatever you call it, that dude up there, he got me involved and wanted me to talk to the guy, and I couldn't hear the guy. I'm deaf. Without something like this, I'm deaf. When I listen to videos, I listen with this, because if I just play them, I can't hear them, or I can't hear them good, even with the volume turned all the way up. But with this right in my ear, then I can hear it. But I couldn't hear what that guy was saying, and then that guy was telling me that Second Thessalonians chapter 2 was talking about the fact that there is no rapture, and it's not. And I couldn't hear him when he was flapping his jaws, and then the preacher tried to get me involved, and I didn't know what the conversation was to start out, and I kept asking that man when the preacher dude, whatever you want to call him, was trying to get me involved. I was asking that Satan guy back there in the corner what he had been saying, because I didn't know what the two of them had been saying. And he told me that the preacher, assistant preacher, had been talking about Second Thessalonians chapter 2 being about the rapture. And I said, well, it kind of is. And he said, no, it's not. He said it's about the wrath of God. And I said, well, it's kind of that too. It's kind of talking about the tribulation period too. But the church will be raptured out before that. But anyway, it got to be, I thought we was going to have World War III in there. And I couldn't hear that guy. He mumbled, and the preacher dude mumbled, and, I was caught in between the two of them, and it was just not good. But now that I got out of there, and I started recording it, the preacher always does a live streaming from my church, and I didn't know that until today. And the assistant preacher asked me if I knew how to live stream, and I said, well, I've done it a couple of times with my YouTube channel. I said, I could probably figure it out. I said, but you didn't tell me in advance. I didn't bring a tripod or nothing, and I don't want to sit and hold my phone for the whole church service while a live stream is going on. They've got a camera mounted up on the wall way up high that points down over the whole congregation and the preacher and all. And I was sitting like on the second row. I could have held the camera up, but it wouldn't have been a good video because I couldn't hold it still without a tripod to hold it or anything. So we didn't do a live stream. But I did start doing a video, and then when World War III almost broke out, I turned the video off. When that guy started yelling, I turned it off. And then I got to thinking later, I should have left it on so the preacher could have heard what all happened, because that guy needs to be educated. And I didn't understand when he was flapping his jaws in church. I didn't understand what he was talking about until I came home and read what he was talking about, and then I understood. And if I'd have known what he was talking about then I think I could have, I don't know if I could have clarified anything or not, but I kind of understood what he was talking about after I came home and looked at what the second chapter of 2 Thessalonians was talking about, because I didn't know what he was talking about at that time, but I did later when I listened to the 19 minutes of video that I did get. I was listening to it, and then I understood what he was saying. I couldn't understand him in the church auditorium. But anyway, and I'll be glad to tutor the guy. I'm not afraid of him, and I think I could teach him if he's got a heart willing to listen. And then after church, a little old lady, everybody there is old. I think I'm the youngest person there, and I'm not young. I know I'm the youngest person there, and by probably 10 years. I'm a young chick there. But this older lady said that she has a neighbor. The assistant preacher, whatever you call the guy, asked a question, something, I don't remember what he asked, but something about what does the world need now, or something. I said it needs true Christians getting out and sharing Jesus is what it needs. And of course none of them want to do that. I don't think any of them's ever witnessed to their dog, much less a person. And after church, this little old lady, probably 90-some years old, came up, and she probably doesn't weigh 40 pounds. She's skinny, she's short, 4'2" or something like that, and maybe 60 or 70 pounds. I could pick her up in one arm easy, I think. But anyway, she's a precious little lady, and she told me that she was very concerned for her neighbor, that a young guy that has been in and out of jail a lot, and he does drugs a lot, and all this stuff. And would I witness to him? I said, sure. I said, have you witnessed to him? And she said, no, I just don't know what to say. And I said, just tell him about Jesus. It's easy. You know about Jesus. Just tell him about Jesus. Tell him that Jesus loves you and that Jesus died for you, and there is a place called heaven and there is a place called hell, and at the end of your life you're going to go to either one or the other, and that you want him to go to heaven, and give him the gospel of Jesus Christ. Well, what is the gospel of Jesus Christ? Oh my goodness gracious. So I said, okay, I'll come witness to him. But she didn't know where he lived, other than he lives behind her. And so she gave me her address. I went and looked up her house, and then I went around a block and found the house behind her house, and went up and knocked on the door, and some old man came to the door, and I don't think he's changed clothes in about 3 months, and had a beard down to about here, which that doesn't bother me. I'm going to have one down there before long if I don't start shaving. But I asked for Sean. Right there. Sean Hosier. And he said Sean was in the coma. And I said, well, I said, and I had my Bible with me. I was ready to preach to him. I had my Bible with me, and I said, well, let me tell you first, I'm not a preacher, but I am a Christian, and I like to share Jesus. And the lady that lives behind you over here wanted me to talk to Sean about Jesus, and that's what I came for. And he said, well, tomorrow's Sean's birthday, and I imagine he'll come home for his birthday. I said, all righty, I'll come back tomorrow. So, and I asked that man, I said, are you a Christian? And he said, oh yeah. I said, I'm a Christian, been a Christian a long time. I said, but Sean's not? He said, well, I don't know if he is or not. And I'm thinking, like, you're a Christian, but you don't know if your son is a Christian. Something doesn't match there. Not in the way I think. Anyway, I asked the guy if he, since he was a Christian, I said, do you go to church? He said, oh yeah, I just got back from the Nazarene church. And I said, okay. So I wasn't going to witness to the old man, and I wasn't going to invite him to my church because he just got back from his own church. So tomorrow I'm going to go back and talk to his son, Sean. But y'all, what we need to be doing is witnessing to people, sharing Jesus. We do. Everybody wants the rapture to come. They don't give a flip about all the lost people that's going to get left behind. I don't understand that. Does that make sense to a Christian person? It doesn't to this Christian person. And, you know, why are people so afraid of witnessing? It's not against the law. I don't know of any police department that's going to throw you in jail for witnessing to somebody. So why don't people do it? I don't know, but it hurts my heart because I want people to get saved, and time is running out. I can't witness to everybody in the whole wide world. Anyway, enough of my ranting and raving. Let me give you your daily Bible readings. We did chapter 13 yesterday. I'll do 14 now, and I thought about doing 15 too, but I gave you a bunch of redneck rants, so redneck ramble. That was probably redneck rant. So I'm just going to give you chapter 14. And it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews, and so spake, that a great multitude both of the Jews and also of the Greeks believed. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren. Long time therefore abode they, speaking boldly in the Lord, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace, and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Jews and part with the apostles. And when there was an assault made, both of the Gentiles and also of the Jews with their rulers, to use them despitefully and to stone them, they were ware of it, and fled unto Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and unto the region that lieth round about, and there they preached the gospel. And there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. the same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, Stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. That's faith right there, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, The gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. And they called Barnabas Jupiter, and Paul Mercurius, and because he was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen and garland unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people, which when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes and ran in among the people, crying out and saying, Sirs, what do ye these things? Why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. Nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness. And with these sayings scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them. And there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. Howbeit, as the disciples stood round about him, he rose up and came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. And when they had preached the gospel to that city, and had taught many, they returned again to Lystra and to Iconium and Antioch, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of God. And when they had ordained them elders in every church, and had prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord, on whom they believed. And after they had passed throughout Pisidia, they came to Pamphylia. And when they had preached the word in Perga, they went down into Italia, and thence sailed to Antioch, from whence they had been recommended to the grace of God for the work which they fulfilled. And when they were come and had gathered the church together, they rehearsed all that God had done with them, and how he had opened the door of faith unto the Gentiles. And there they abode long time with the disciples. And there you go, y'all. That was the short chapter 14 of the book of Acts. And I am done for now. I worked for several hours on something that, if I finish it before the rapture, it is going to be awesome. I am taking prophecy about Jesus the Messiah found in the Old Testament and comparing it to prophecy fulfilled in the New Testament. And that's what I got so far. To this whole page and half of another page. And I ain't done yet. Well, I may just stop with what I got, though. That's a lot right there. I like doing stuff like that. So maybe I'll share that with y'all someday, but that'll be probably 4 or 5 videos right there. But it's something you could do if you got a reference Bible, especially. Just look. People are so lazy. People want to know God, but they don't want to know God. They want it to come supernaturally or something. Kind of got to live in the Holy Word and prayer. I like to study. I like to learn. That's it, y'all. God bless you, dear friends.